Sadly, 2015 is almost over, but of course it did bring us loads of good games, including one of the finest horror games to come out in the last couple of years, that being, of course, Soma by Frictional Games. So I thought, well, what better way to honour it with I look forward to some of the horror games coming out next year. So let's begin with We Happy For You. While this isn't strictly a horror game, it is downright disturbing, unsettling and creepy in its presentation. There are definitely horror elements with a mixture of survival and the eerie aesthetic, not to mention those nightmare-inducing masks, definitely put this on my list of most anticipated horror games for next year. Combine this with an intriguing setting and Compulsion Games seem to be onto a winner. Next up is a game that I've spoken about a couple of times now by the name of Perception, which is being developed by the Deep End Games, which, as you may know, is a studio made up of ex-Bioshock developers and led by Irrational Games veteran Bill Gardner. This game is another with an interesting premise, as you play as a blind woman by the name of Cassie. You quote-unquote see by tapping your cane, but this comes with a risk. The creating that sound for you to actually get around and see the environment will attract the attention of something called the Presence. This is looking to be a thoroughly unique title that will have to rely on brilliant atmosphere and sound direction, but it's safe to say it's in pretty good hands. Just the unique setting and character you play as, plus the really interesting trailers, definitely puts this on my to-do list. Next up is Pamela, which is another one that definitely wears its Bioshock influences on its sleeve, but of course there's nothing wrong with that. Pamela is another first-person survival horror in a sci-fi land by the name of Eden, whose citizens have become infected with some kind of horrible disease. Your goal is simple: to survive. The graphics look interesting and surprisingly colourful for a horror game. Their setting is eerie, and there seems to be that there will be quite a lot of replay value, with the character changing based on how you play. Oh, and there's also optional permadeath for the masochists of you out there. Next up is a game that I've actually mentioned before, but it was so long ago now I doubt many of you will remember, as it is Routine, and is yet another sci-fi horror, being another first-person horror set on an abandoned lunar base. This will probably remind some of Soma, even if this has been in development for quite some time. The atmosphere in the trailer seems good, and the driving forces of discovery and mystery could make this for an interesting one. And finally, the last game that I'm really looking forward to horror-wise for next year is Allison Road, which is a bit of a special mention, as it of course is on Kickstarter. Shouldn't need much of an introduction, as it's probably the closest to Silent Hills we'll ever get, given that Konami has had some kind of brain hemorrhage. And I'm crossing both my fingers and toes that this one actually gets funded. It looks so delightfully twisted in a very Silent Hill way, with feelings of claustrophobia and dread in Alpha Bill gameplay trailers. If this one actually sees the light of day, it will definitely be something special. So I'd love to hear some thoughts from you guys. What are the horror games you're looking forward to next year, or just games in general? And not necessarily AAA, any game can be indie or whatever, or something that perhaps you're also looking forward to on Kickstarter. Do let me know. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.